The devastating news came down late Wednesday night. Devin Williams out for 3 months because of stress fractures in his back. An injury that's been going on for a while, just detected. We'll get to that. Who steps up for the Brewers? Talk about a few other things, like maybe Sal Frelick being the third baseman. But we'll talk about Devin Williams coming up next.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, when Devin Williams, as I was telling you the other day, when he went to go get that second opinion on his back, I just had an uneasy feeling about it. It's been bothering him for quite a bit, and here we are. Stress fracture, 2 of them in his back, not detected by the Milwaukee Brewers, but by a second opinion. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. Who steps up for the Brewers? Is Frelick possibly going to get a lot of playing time at third base? The Brewers stunk in their last game on Wednesday. We'll talk about all this coming up here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along. Chuck Freeman here. Late night on a Wednesday night after this news broke. I sometimes wait till a little bit later on in the day just to make sure some news doesn't surface, because what I don't want to do is do the podcast and a major story breaks. And certainly, sometimes I wait till really late. Even after games, I'll do it really late, because you just never know when a story's going to break. And here it does. Breaks very late night here in the Central Time Zone in Wisconsin. We'll get to all that coming up next. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. You get us on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads. And, of course, you find us on YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell that alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Hit my Twitter account up, Chuck Freeman, Freimund. We're talking Brewers baseball with you. Well, one of the strengths of the Milwaukee Brewers is their bullpen. We all know that. Their bullpen was great last year. Just terrific. Led by Devin Williams, and working your way all the way down through middle relievers, situational guys, guys who came in for, a few batters. Even the journeymen, like Bryce Wilson, were great last year. But it all starts with Devin Williams, who was the best closer in baseball last year. The Brewers have very little margin of error. Their margin of error, very, very small on this team, meaning that they have to have a lot of things go right on this team. Offensively, the pitching just had to be superb last year. There was no margin of error there. Pitching was great, starting, bullpen, for them to win 92 games. And even that wasn't good enough in the postseason. So with this team here, losing Devin Williams as their closer, people will say, well, they have other guys to step up that notch. Well, you move everybody up, but we're talking about an all-star closer here. We're talking about a guy who's lights out, the airbender, in his ERA that was under 2 last year. 8-3 ERA or under 2, all-star closer. Yeah, he's tough to replace. Sure, you move other guys up, but losing Devin Williams a couple of weeks before the season starts and finding out you're not going to have your closer for 3 months, that is devastating news to this team. Devastating. Just horrible news for this team. They need a guy. They need a bona fide closer. And who's going to step up? We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. But first of all, Devin's back has been bothering him since late last year. Okay? Bothering him and bothering him. Why did it take this long till we got till a couple of weeks before the season started that he went to go see a spine specialist? The Brewers doctors, now reportedly, the Brewers doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him. Couldn't find anything wrong with Devin. Couldn't find anything wrong. So he was told nothing's wrong, but his back continued to hurt. Now I would think, like in the offseason, if your back is bothering you weeks and months after the season, because it's a long off season, you might have got that looked at, okay, before you started throwing again. That's what I don't understand in this. Why it took so long. Why in the offseason if you were assuming you were working out and throwing in the off season like most of these guys do, it wasn't bothering you then at all? Because it was bothering you late last year. That part I didn't get. It took until a couple of weeks before the season, and now we find out the stress fractures. I mean, did this just happen when spring training started? Apparently, he's been having back issues for a long time. I don't know. It just seems pretty confusing to me. It does. It just doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. But it is what it is. As somebody once said 20 years ago, and that phrase gets used too much, it is what it is. Devin Williams out 3 months. The doctor's confident that he's going to make a full recovery. The independent doctor, the spine specialist, 2 stress fractures in his back. Nothing was detected by the Brewers doctors. They had to go to this spine specialist. Unreal. Wonder what the insurance covered on that deal. Devin Williams. I feel badly for the guy because the guy is fantastic. He's fantastic, and the Brewers need him. So who's going to step up in his role? We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along, everybody, here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Late night, dropping this episode overnight, and FanDuel and Amazon Fire TV, 2 big sponsors. We'll talk about Fire TV first of all. I have it sitting right here. I have it sitting right here on my TV here. Watch the Brewers here in my studio. Watch them. Take all my notes before I do on road games. I'm at the home games, but I watch Amazon Fire, big part of it, because I have the MLB package and it's right there. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs like I have right here. That Fire TV stick that you plug right in your TV. Plug it right in your TV, take it out of your porch, take it out anywhere. There's free TV on there. There's live TV, baseball, college basketball tournament. You're going to want to have Fire TV. College basketball tournament, when it's nice and 67 degrees like it is in Wisconsin, you want to sit outside, watch some of these college basketball tournaments, you can with Fire TV. And they recently created Fire TV channels to deliver constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all free, and includes us right here on Locked On. Yes, we are on Fire TV, my show on Fire TV. Let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, all that, keep you up to date with all the world of sports, NBA, MLB, March Madness, lots more, not to mention all the great news, entertainment, gaming, all that. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and devices. I can't say the device, because if I say the device that begins with an A, it's going to go off right here and right in the middle of this, and I'm going to have problems. So, but you know what I'm saying. I subscribe to it. I have it right here. If you ever checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this one. Learn more at Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. This show is also brought to you by the good folks at FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book for a reason. And of course, with all the tournaments going on, you want to check out FanDuel. And hey, you get $200 in bonus bets right now. $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. $200 using point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. If you win that first $5 bet, you are going to get $200 of PrizePicks. Maybe you like Wisconsin against Rutgers on Thursday. Think Wisconsin is the 5 seed. There's some dark horses in these college basketball tournaments. Several of them. I was on Fordham yesterday. Loved Fordham. But don't listen to me. Whatever I say, take the opposite, I always say. $200 on point spreads, money lines, and you can even pick who's going to win the whole shebang. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn, and bet college hoops until they cut the nets down with FanDuel. All right, we're coming right back. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Late night here. We're dropping this one overnight after the late night news on Devin Williams with the stress fracture. 2 stress fractures. Not 1, 2 in his back. Back's been bothering him for a while, and we're just finding out a couple weeks before the season. Goes to a spine specialist, got the stress fractures. So who's going to step up in his role? I've seen a few names. Now, Uribe obviously would be a choice, But Uribe's got problems getting the ball over the plate on a consistent basis. Sure, he could throw 103 miles an hour. I love Uribe, and maybe a future closer in baseball, but not right now. Right now, well, he's closed a few games too, but not real sure on Uribe just yet because of control, because of command, control. I would say Piamps is the guy. I'm going to go with Piamps as my closer. I bet you he's the guy. I think Piamps deserves it. He was the eighth inning man, a strong eighth inning man last year. Uribe, he'd be next to the line. But Piamps, to me, is the closer going into the season. Uribe, the eighth inning man, hoping he can get it over the plate. Some mentioned McGill. Would you put McGill, the 6'8" kid? Yeah, I he looked good last year. I liked him. I liked him in spots. I liked some of the things he did. But I'm not there with him. The guy I feel most confident about is Piamps. And I think that will be the guy Pat Murphy names as his closer, unless he just comes out and says that's going to be closer by committee. Oh, for 3 months doing this closer by committee stuff. God, I could do it for a week or 10 days or whatever. But this closer by committee, I don't want to hear that. Pick a closer, and if he fails, on to the next guy. But let's pick somebody out. We got 3 months to do this. And don't even think that the Brewers are going to make a trade for a closer. Please. I mean, I didn't see any suggestions on Twitter. I wasn't looking for any. But I assume no one's going to say, well, let's go out and make a trade. Let's go pick somebody up. Let's get ourselves a closer. Ain't happening with this team. Ain't happening with this franchise. Sad to say. Might happen with the Yankees, Red Sox, you name it, but it's not happening here with the Brewers. I saw one tweet paging Derek Turnbull. Paging Derek Turnbull. Derek Turnbull returning to the Brewers is a better option, is a more likely option, not a better option, a more likely option than them going out and trading for an established closer. But I think it's going to be Piamps. All right, so that's going on there. God, that ruined my night. You know, people say, well, sports should never ruin your night. But, you know, this team, I was doing a couple of projected lineups. I was going to talk about projected lineups tonight. I didn't do that after this news broke. We'll catch up with that down the line, because I think I like a lineup that where Frelick is the starting third baseman. And I think that's the way this should go. We'll talk more about Sal coming up here in a little bit. But Bryce Terang, congratulations out to him. Came into camp 10 pounds heavier, stronger, not to hit home runs, but to do a few more things last year that he couldn't do. You know, a little bit harder contact. So Terang, defensively, we love him. And Terang, right now, named the starting second baseman for opening day already. Great. They announced it last year that he made the team, and he was a starting second baseman on opening day. Starting second baseman here, had a cup of coffee down at the minors last year, came up, hit a little better, changed a few things around. But Terang is my starting second baseman going into the season. Yeah, some of you guys wanted Ortiz and all that. No, Terang. I'm going to give Terang my first shot at second base. If he falls, we'll go to plan B later on. But Bryce Terang is my second baseman. Now, third base. Who's playing third base? It's not Ortiz. I want Sal Frelick there. I want my guy Sal Frelick playing third base. There's no way I want Garrett Mitchell coming off the bench. Get me my best lineup out there right now. Get me my best 8 players out there, and that means Garrett Mitchell and Sal Frelick in the starting lineup. I don't want to see anything Mitchell coming off the bench. Sal Frelick has been taking balls at third base. He's not done it, obviously, since high school, but I'm willing to go there. Stranger things have happened. I'd put Frelick as my starting third baseman. I'm going to get my best offense out there. And assuming that Sal is not going to be a complete sieve, I don't expect him to be Sal Bando over at third. Some of you young guys out there, look up Sal Bando, former third baseman of the Brewers, late 70s to early 80s. I assume some of the old school guys out there remember Sal Bando, but who just passed away. just passed away within the last year as well. Sal Bando, who's living in Wisconsin. But I don't expect Sal Frelick to be a stud third baseman like Sal Bando was defensively. But I would take, a reasonable facsimile of him. But if I could just have his bat, I want his bat in the lineup. I want Frelick's bat in the lineup. I want Mitchell's bat in the lineup. I do. I want both of those guys in there playing every day. And for that to happen, Mitchell, find him an outfield spot, put him in right field. Frelick, you're playing third base. There's a reason why they're giving him reps at third base. It's just they're not screwing around with anybody. They're not playing with anybody. They're not thinking about just throwing him there every once in a while, like once every 2 weeks. If they're trying him out at third base and giving him a lot of playing time over there, they mean business. I feel like he's going to be the starting third baseman on opening day. I've said that from the very beginning. There's a reason why they're giving a lot of reps over there. But if he was a complete hack over there, Murph would have pulled him out. But he's not, and he's my third baseman, and I think he's going to be Murphy's third baseman on opening day. All right, we got to talk about just a terrible performance by Bryce Wilson. And Dylan Cease, he's not coming here either. We'll get to that coming up next. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. PrizePicks. Talk about PrizePicks. Well, the football season might be over, but the action on the floor is heating up, whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court. There's no shortage of high stakes basketball moments this time of the year. Get in all the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you could turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Went up to 100 times your money with PrizePicks. As little as 4 correct picks, and you can turn $10 into $1,000. NBA, NHL, college basketball. You can do it with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, and it's all there for you. You look at matchups, you like certain players in certain games, go to PrizePicks, download the app, go to PrizePicks right now, and you're going to find guys you like. Maybe you like a certain player, Giannis against a West Coast defense. You think Giannis is going to light it up against these guys, or Damian Lillard. You think, okay, I think he's going to just light up this defense. Take him in a parlay. Do what you want there, but there's so many ways you can go. They offer injury insurance as well. So if your injury stays, gets hurt, well, there's some insurance against that as well. But test your skills on this, and you can win some big time bucks. Download the app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. The first deposit match up to $100. That's with PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Do it all on PrizePicks. And we're coming right back. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Let me just grab this real quick. I heard Gorman Thomas was going to be like at a grocery store. I'm not going to name it, but he's going to be at a grocery store on Saturday. Go to the internet. I better not say it where it is, but I got this old sport magazine of Gorman. And a couple of years ago, my kid was playing lacrosse. Yeah, I don't know why, but he was playing lacrosse to help his hockey. He was playing lacrosse. So I was at his lacrosse game, and who comes in to watch the other team was the 1979 American League home run champ, Gorman Thomas, number 20, who you could argue should have his jersey retired. Now, and he's been to a couple of other games my kid has been at. But I'm just not going to go up to Gorman while he's watching his kid play lacrosse and say, Gorman, can you autograph, and I'm holding up, if you're listening to us in the podcast, Gorman, can you autograph my 1980 July of 1980 Sport Magazine cover shot of you? And it's not that I'm going to sell it or on eBay or anything like that. I'm not going to do anything like that. I don't want to do that at all. As you see all my stuff above here, I want to add Gorman autographed to my wall. I don't want to sell it at all. And that's the thing, is when you go up to some of these guys asking for their autographs, they think immediately, well, you're going to try to, sell it. I don't get into dealing and I'm collecting. I'm collecting all the way. I want it my way. I want this for my collection. So I didn't want to bring this to one of my kids' lacrosse games and go up to Gorman and say, Gorman, by the way, can you sign this? He's going to wonder, boy, did you just have the sport magazine hanging in your car? But I see he's going to be signing autographs on Saturday at a grocery store not too far from where I live. So I'm going to go and have Gorman sign that GT. I did get Gorman's autograph when I was a kid. I have it on a ball somewhere. I have it on a program somewhere, but I want to get on cover of Sports Illustrated. I was one of those kids at County Stadium who would get to the game hours early and be in the parking lot. And when you can't do this now, but in the 70s and 80s, you can go to the parking lot and the players would park at a certain spot, an unfenced in area, and they would walk into the Brewer offices. And while they were get there, if you got there early enough, like 4 or 5 hours before the game, you have a baseball, and these guys would all sign your autographs. Everybody did it but Cecil Cooper. But Molitor, Yount, Larry Heisel with his bad shoulder, they all did. I had, my youth, I spent, at County Stadium. And here I am as an adult, spending a lot of my time at County Stadium as well. But looking forward to getting Gorman Thomas's autograph coming up on Saturday. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Bryce Wilson had a terrible outing. They lost 15-4. I believe it was to the White Sox. Bryce Wilson and Murph in his press conference just said we were just terrible all the way around. Normally you don't hear managers that critical about your team, but he was not happy with the way his team ran the bases, fielded the baseball, or pitched. Bryce Wilson gave like 10 runs. He was just terrible. Just when I started saying nice things about Bryce Wilson and how, last year at the beginning of the year, maybe I was a little hard on him because he was bad in Pittsburgh, but he had a great year last year. So I've been praising Bryce Wilson, say, Bryce, great. What a wonderful addition to the bullpen. Do what you did last year. And I know it's only spring training, but he got roughed up. He was letting balls over the plate, and he gave up 3 home run balls. Not good. And then we were just talking the other day. Would Bryce Wilson be added to that rotation? Because they're trying to stretch him out a little bit, it seems. How would they use him? And by the way, back to the bullpen. I wonder if they'd be so desperate on the bullpen. But I mean, their bullpen is good. I shouldn't say desperate. Their bullpen is really good. But with Williams out there, I wonder if DL Hall, they'd move him to the bullpen. Now, the Brewers have a day off, I believe. Or no, they do have a game on Thursday. So Murphy is going to probably do some talking, and we'll see what he decides to do with his bullpen, his closer's role. We'll see if it's closers by committee. Hope not. Or if they give it the Piamps, Uribe a long shot, or maybe McGill gets his shot at it. We'll see. But I wonder, though, if DL Hall, who they've been kind of grooming to start, kind of preparing him to start, if would they move him to the bullpen? That was just a thought, but I think they're just so stacked in the bullpen right now, they wouldn't need to do such a thing. Dylan Cease, some of you guys have been writing to me and asking me if the Brewers going to get themselves another starter, a bona fide starter. Dylan Cease, never in our life was Dylan Cease coming to Milwaukee Brewers. Never, not today, not yesterday, not at the trading deadline. Never was Dylan Cease coming here. The Sox traded him to San Diego. I believe San Diego and Texas were the two teams really bidding for Dylan Cease. And it sounds like as a late night, Cease went to the Padres. But again, I just love it because, I'm hopeful too. But you get on Twitter and boy, would the Brewers go for this guy? And it never happens. Somebody comes available. Are they going to go after this guy? No. Dylan Cease. Yeah, so don't be disappointed. Dylan Cease was never coming here. Just not a Brewers move. I mean, I'm still stunned that they signed Rhys Hoskins. Had he not been injured and kind of taken an injury discount, ain't no way they'd sign Rhys Hoskins to a multi-year contract. Not at all. All right. We got the Devin Williams news that was devastating. Horrible news to start the podcast tonight. So Brewers will just have to make do. Okay. I'm sure a few more wins dropped off their Vegas total They were like a 77.5 last time I checked. Probably a little bit down more, dipped a little bit with the loss of Devin Williams. We'll see who's going to fill his shoes. Big shoes to fill. Long season. Won't be back to right around the All Star break. I guess that's 3 months. April, May, June. Yeah, well, 3 months, July, I guess. We'll see. Sometimes the doctor expects him to make a full recovery. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. You get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, around all the major downloads. Hit us up on YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Have yourself a great Thursday, everybody. Good night.